So from our elevator pitch, I'd now like to move to talking to you about your media pitch. And again, the reason that I'm focusing on this is that I would like you to start looking for opportunities to get more visibility, because with more visibility, you're going to be able to get more sales. We basically, as I've said before, we need more eyes on your product and your programs and your activities. And the best way to do that is to get some media coverage. And when I talk about media coverage, I'm talking about traditional mainstream media outlets, but I'm also talking about coverage on things like blogs, podcasts, summits, webinars. There's a whole raft of ways that you can get coverage now. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you how to pitch to a journalist and how journalists operate. And I'm doing that for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because I guess it's from my heritage in terms of my work. I started out in the world as a PR consultant, so I did an enormous amount of what I'm about to teach you right now early on in my career. And there is an art form to it, and I want you to understand the do's and don'ts of that as you take your business out. The second reason that I'm teaching you this is that it's a really valuable and important tool. If you get it right in terms of media pitching, then you're going to be able to pitch to a podcast, or you're going to be able to pitch to a telesummit manager, leader. You're going to be able to pitch to a whole range of different types of outlets if you can learn these core skills, and they really are important skills that I'm about to share with you. So I think I've just covered we need a media pitch because we want you to have more eyes on your sales. And the other thing is that the third-party credibility that comes from getting someone else to publish your work is enormous, especially from large, well-known media outlets, in your own country. So wherever you are, it's really, really important. And you can go to media outlets in your state, but also national media outlets. But that credibility, because someone else has bothered to carry your story, your stock of credibility just goes up enormously. And the thing is, when you're launching a business and you're just starting out, this is an incredibly valuable tool to be able to build your credibility quickly. So that's another reason that I wanted you to learn all about this today. So how do we do it? Firstly, I'd love you to understand the concept of newsworthiness. Now, some of the things that I'm sharing with you now are things that you will, when I go through them, you'll say, oh, that makes sense. Some of these things are common sense, but I'm bringing them to the surface because journalists really want to know when they're looking for stories, they're looking for things that fall in this category of newsworthiness. So what constitutes something being newsworthy? Well, it's unique, first, last, new, largest, oldest, something, again, and these sound like they're superlatives, and they actually are, because this is how newspapers are sold and media outlets operate. They want the newness and they want the uniqueness in that. It could be first, last, as I said, smallest. Human interest is also a very strong newsworthiness category. So if we look at what happened here in Brisbane over the weekend with Jeff Horn winning the boxing title, that's a huge human interest story. A boy from Acacia Ridge making it good on the world stage, his city being proud, etc. There's been a ticker tape parade run for him today in his honour. All of these things, these are all human interest elements. Sex appeal, that's why we see, still see images of thin young ladies on things, because those things still do sell, and they sell even on places like Instagram. So sex appeal definitely still is a newsworthy element. And also the notion of local news. So this is an important thing for you to understand, firstly, in terms of when you're pitching a story. So I was reading an article earlier today about a journalist who was pitched a story. He was based in Chicago, and he was pitched a story that was actually based out of San Diego. But it said, and the pitch said, I'll come down this weekend to have a look at the event that we're running. He said, well, I'm in Chicago. There's no way I'm going to get to San Diego for that, and it's not high enough level of interest for me to do that. So local is very important in terms of understand and know your journalists well enough so you know where local is for them. And don't ask them for something locally if it's not local. But also this can work well for us in terms of even, local newspapers in the town or city where we might live, or in the state and so on. So there's different levels of local, but I'd just like you to be aware of making sure that when you're pitching to a journalist, if you're asking them to come to something, make sure you know where they are. And in this era of global communication and, global pitching, your journalist could be anywhere. I did some work recently with what was purported to be an Australian site, but there were definitely strong links into Asia for this site, so the people that I was dealing with were Asian. So it was just understanding again the nuances of that, and then the way the material needed to be pitched to those people. So these are just important concepts. You've probably heard them before, but I just wanted to really cover off over this again because it is important. Anything that you pitch to the media must have some element of newsworthiness to it. So what does a journalist want? They want this, as I said, this first element, newsworthiness. So something of value that will drive traffic to their website. That's what it boils down to. So a lot of those elements that we've spoken about. But aside from newsworthiness, there's a few other things that they want. Firstly, they want facts, not fluff. They really want detail, and they will not look at your pitch if it's fluffy and doesn't have any direct relevant information to them or to their what's called their beat in that. They want a pitch tailored to them specifically. So different media outlets at different levels may have specialist journalists. So there can be specialist, the ABC, for example, has specialist science journalists, specialist rural reporters, specialist overseas correspondents, specialist technology correspondents. So make sure that you find that person in your niche and you pitch to them. There's no point pitching to a lifestyle journalist or to a technology journalist if your story is really a lifestyle story, unless there's a piece of technology connected to that. So just really make sure that your pitch is tailored specifically to them. The other thing that journalists don't have the advantage of is much time. They really need to turn things around quickly, and they work on extremely tight deadlines. So I'd like to really encourage you when you're working, particularly with journalists from mainstream media outlets, to really respect their timing and ask questions like, when do you need this information by? What specifically do you need, so that you're really clear about what it is that they want. The other thing to be aware of with journalists is that they have the final editorial rights on your material. Never, ever, please ever ask to check a story or quotes that you've provided. If you do that, your story will be put in the bin. This is sort of, the journalists consider this the last bastion of where they're at in terms of their right to be a journalist, and we just need to respect that. Now, bloggers may have, some bloggers may have a different view, but some bloggers will have the same view. Don't ask to check my story. Now, if a story is published and the facts aren't right, then you have a chance to go back and redress that. But let's hope that the document, the sort of work that you'll provide, the pictures that you're making, the facts are going to all be there, and that might be something that will be misconstrued. But please just never ever ask to check a story or quotes. Journalists also really value loyalty. They love it when you come back to them with story after story. And this is where, and it's again, when we're working with journalists, it's all about bringing and developing a relationship with the journalist. So again, be very, very clear about who are the journalists that you would like to follow up and work with, and build a relationship with them over the long term. Continue to give them good quality material as you progress in your business. Because one of the reasons this loyalty is important is that they want to be able to make a name for themselves. Journalists are in the business of business just as much as everybody else, and they need to really want to make a name for themselves. So this is again where the loyalty around the stories and information that you provide to them is really important. They'll actually really value that. In terms of opportunities for you, so if you're thinking that, well, gosh, where would I even start with working with a journalist? I just wanted to share some ideas with you in terms of where you'd start. I think the best place for most people in this program is to position yourselves as an expert advisor or commentator. And you might pick up on current events to be an expert advisor. It might be some new research that's being released that you could comment on. So it could be, so for example, recently there was some new research released on worldwide internet marketing trends. That's something that I, in my capacity as a marketer, could comment on to a journalist if I wanted to get a story there. And market trends, so new research, market trends, things that are going on. You may, in fact, decide to create your own proprietary tool or information source. So what I mean by that is your own little research product, your own index. I've got a client, Paul, Paul Palella from Brisbane Buyers Agency, we're working on a smart buyers property index, and that's his own IP. Paul's very much into the figures and into the data and so on, and he's actually developing a proprietary index that looks at property data in a very different way compared to the way it's looked at now. So we're going to be releasing that to the media and splashing that as a story, with the idea that every quarter he does a report from his index and journalists will pick that up. Now, that's something that you could consider doing as well. You might also decide that you're going to do the top 10 trends for the year, for the month, but I'd say for the year or the quarter, I probably wouldn't go down to a monthly basis, but you could also look at doing top 10 trends as well, again, specific to your field. Again, this is a way of positioning yourself as an expert, someone who's got your finger on the pulse, and someone who is worthwhile talking about on this issue, on that particular issue, and perhaps other related items as well. The other thing you can do from a media perspective to pitch is news in your business, but I need to emphasize this needs to be real news in your business. So very key milestones or a new service or an innovation, could be an app, something that's really going to benefit an audience, not something that's just, we've moved offices or something like that. That's not news. It has to be a really significant piece of news in your business. The other option for you is to announce award wins, if newsworthy and groundbreaking. So again, these award wins, and these things are going to work at different levels of the media. So if you've won an award, in a local community, then the local papers would be interested in that, and that would be a good story for you to get. Likewise, you can pitch if you're doing a speaking opportunity at a significant event. So if there's something specific that you're saying that's groundbreaking or new, a new way of thinking, and you're speaking at a key event, you could actually look at promoting that speech through relevant media. Again, here this discussion I'm having is really focusing on mainstream media, because I think it's important that you learn these skills. But these skills will also be useful when, in terms of working with bloggers and key influencer bloggers as well. So how do we do all of this? Well, there's a range of things that we can do. There's a media bio, which, to be frank, your media bio will be based on your elevator pitch. So whatever your elevator pitch is, that's where your media bio will come from that. What I'm more interested to share with you today is how to pitch to the media, and I'm going to show you some specific examples of that. The other things that you can do associated with that pitch are to develop what's called a media backgrounder, which can basically be a support piece to your media pitch, which could be just a one-page fact sheet that talks about what it is that you do and your approach, or a media release with video footage if appropriate. So a media release is a more formal document that we do, and it might have video footage that goes with that. So you'll make a choice about what you want to do. But today I'd like to focus on talking about the media pitch. And you might be thinking, well, why would we be focusing on a media pitch? And I would say it's because there's a couple of really great resources that are around for you to really take advantage of that weren't around when I started in PR many years ago. So those resources I'm about to share with you, but the key thing is you've got to be putting yourself out there and looking for opportunities. And the first of these resources that I want to share with you is SourceBottle. This is actually an Australian-based website, and it does exactly. This is a really good example of a really well-developed website, where this is their offer. We connect expert sources with journalists and bloggers. Find out how. And this is all the information they provide above the fold. So from a marketing perspective, I really like their website. But need a source for a story? So I'm a journalist or a blogger, or I want to be quoted. I'm a source seeking publicity. So basically the way SourceBottle works, I'll speak about this from a source seeking publicity, because that's really where we're all at. So what you do is you go into SourceBottle and you can connect up with them to receive alerts from them. You can decide how regularly you like to receive them. I receive them twice a day to my inbox because I can quickly scan the email and I can work out if I want to follow up on something or not. But these opportunities to quote come up quickly and they die quickly. So I wouldn't, if you're going to do this, I'd definitely be suggesting, sign up to get alerts at least once a day. I know we all suffer a bit from email overwhelm, but the benefit of signing up twice a day means that I see things coming through and I can jump on it quickly if I need to. I also use SourceBottle for my clients. So if I'm seeing things that I think might be relevant, I pass those leads on to my clients as well. So the email will come up. It will have something that looks like this. And it says basically, what they're looking for. So your startup business and experience a small business, who the target is for the story, who the outlet is, and what the deadline is. So you can see there's different deadlines here and different opportunities. And literally it takes me a second or two to scan these emails, and then I just delete and continue if I'm not interested. If I am interested, then I click through. So I click through on your startup experience and small business. And this page gives me a summary of who the outlet is, what their coverage is, what they're looking for, and the deadline. And then below that then is the opportunity in terms of how we need to respond. So what you do there is put your name, your email, and then your comments are really your is your pitch, your media pitch to these people. Now, a couple of things I would say to you in terms of looking at Source Bottle. A lot of things will come up that might look of interest to you for your business. Just the first thing I'd like to recommend that you do is just look at the media outlet or publication, and just check the level of following they have, the number of people that they have, they're following, their scope, and do they really fit you as an outlet? Because you can put a lot of effort into writing a story for some of these outlets, and if they don't have a huge following, or if they don't have if they don't fit, have a values alignment with you, then it could be a waste of your time. So what you need to do is just do that little bit of investigation before you decide that you're going to respond to that call out for information. And I just had that experience, and I've pitched to one outlet, and I've got some coverage from them. Another outlet I was looking at, they're looking for book chapters, and then I went and had a look at their Facebook page, and so contributions of a whole chapter to a book. I looked at their Facebook page and I just made a decision they didn't have a big enough following for me to even bother with that. Like, I would like to publish a book chapter, that's a great idea, would help with my positioning, but it's not something, if they don't have the scope or the outlet that I think is appropriate for me, then I won't spend my time on that. So that's Source Bottle, and it's a really great tool. And even if you're not ready to start pitching yet your program or your business to the media, just even subscribe to this to get a feel for the kinds of things that you're that you could pitch for, and the kinds of things that people are looking for. And they have all sorts of categories that you can pitch for. I haven't signed up to all of the categories. I've just signed up to the relevant ones that I think are relevant for me and my clients. The next one is Haro, Help a Reporter Out. Again, this is an American website, and this is, again, a database of sources for stories and opportunities to get coverage. So again, very, very clearly what it is that Haro does. I haven't done as much work with Haro yet. They don't have such an easy system in terms of subscription and so on. And again, there are paid levels that you can go to for Haro to get more information and to have your profile published. Likewise with Source Bottle, you can pay $25 a month to have your profile promoted, and that may be a choice that you make at a certain stage in your business life cycle as well. So these are a couple of really good tools that I'd like you to have a look at and to just think about subscribing to when it's appropriate. So how do we do this media pitch? How do we write one? Well, firstly, we need to have an engaging email subject line. And that subject line needs to be in complete alignment with what the journalist is looking for and the news of the day. It needs to be, again, if you just think about all of the emails that are coming into your email inbox every day, imagine the journalist is getting probably 2 or 3 times that amount of emails. What is it in your email subject line that could actually make your story stand out? And that's really, really critical. If you think about what makes something stand out in your email inbox and makes you click on that, this likewise think about what might make a journalist click on something in their email inbox. So the next step is to really understand who your reporter is. So reference either their media outlet or a recent story that they themselves have written. Just as you need to, in some way, to illustrate that you understand who they are and what they're interested in. You might even reference a recent newsworthy story or research related to your topic, or you might even, if you've got a relationship with a journalist, you might even reference the last story that they wrote for you. So this is basically just about sitting in their shoes, building a relationship with them through an email. Then once you've made some reference in some way to to engaging them, then introduce your news or ability to comment on a topic in a way that will entice or interest them. So again, your ability to comment needs to be linked to that first newsworthy piece that you provided in that email. Then in the call to action, I really encourage you to use gentle language. With journalists, there's nothing, they really are a very, can be a very feisty bunch and can be very particular about how they like to be treated. And they are very time poor and they have a lot on their plates. So, and they can be skeptical and somewhat cynical. So if you put in demanding language like, I'll need to know your answer by blah, 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 they will throw your email in the bin. Absolutely. So just use very gentle language in your call to action. And then make it very easy for them to follow you up. So a phone number, an email address, or a couple of alternate phone numbers, and put in information, append relevant information, rather than trying to cram everything into a long email. Put your key points into your email. It could be just a paragraph or two, and then append relevant information. So it could be a piece of video footage or a link to a blog post or whatever. But make it, whatever you append, make it easy for them to download. Compress the PDF. If it's a big PDF, don't make it a big PDF. It won't get through their mail servers. So just imagine you're dealing with a very fragile, delicate person and you need to make life as easy for them as possible. If you can imagine that, you'll actually, start out well with it, any journalist that you work with. So here's an example of an initial cold pitch. This is one that's referring to other research. This is a way that you could come in. So a recent report pointing to the frightening reality that hackers use ransomware and medical devices could pose, cybersecurity threats, with insulin pumps and pacemakers being some of the devices most vulnerable to these risks. So what is that saying there? So yeah, there's this thing called cybersecurity. There's this threats. It's ransomware, which is a bit of a tech word. I don't know if I would necessarily use that, but medical devices that everyday people use, insulin pumps and pacemakers. Probably most people we know would have someone in our circle would have a pacemaker. So this is a potentially a mainstream story. So this is from a university academics perspective. For this reason, I wanted to see if you're interested in speaking with whoever it was, a leading encryption and cybersecurity expert, DARPA contractor and professor in NJIT's computer science program. He's been conducting research on security, and there's a lot of technology here. So this is obviously a technology journalist and can discuss the severity of this threat and the ways we leverage new protection techniques against this potentially fatal new cybercrime. Now, some of these sentences are a bit long, but you'll get the gist. And here, the call to action. Please let me know if you're interested. Thank you for your time. So again, lots of relationship building, lots of, really coming up slowly and comfortably to the journalist, not sort of being too full on. If you were writing to this journalist and they might have actually done something recently on cybersecurity hacking and you want to actually demonstrate to them that you know what they're talking about, you could say, hi, blah, blah, blah. I enjoyed your recent article on cybersecurity and hacking. It raised some issues that are very relevant in the work that blah, 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 our expert has been doing. Expert has been researching security, blah, 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 especially with insulin and pacemakers. He's been looking at the ways we can leverage new protection techniques. So you see here, we've done the same pitch, but we've done it in a different way. In that we've referenced directly this article here, and the other one we've referenced some other research. So I just wanted to show you those couple of options. If you had been working with the journalist and had done perhaps other work with them before, then you wouldn't do a cold pitch like this. You would actually, next time you write to the journalist, if you had a story for them, you'd say, hi, blah, blah, blah. Thank you for your help thank you for your recent article on cybersecurity and hacking. Really appreciated, really appreciated it. Everyone really enjoyed it, et cetera, et cetera. Then go on to then introduce your next your next story that you want to raise with them. Don't assume you can just go straight in and just expect that they will cover your story because they covered it last time. A whole lot of things happen in a newsroom and in a blogger's life that means that they have got a lot going on. You need to, also by referencing a recent article that they have written for you, you're highlighting the relationship and that there is a connection there before you go into the new ask. So that's how you would do an initial cold pitch, or a pitch where you do have a relationship. But the key thing I would say to you here is that following up is key. Journalists receive hundreds of emails daily. If you don't get a response back on your email, it's not, well, there's a few reasons. It could be because maybe it wasn't pitched properly, but it could be that it was just missed in the flow of what was occurring in their inbox. So you can, if you've sent an email and you haven't had a response in a couple of days' time, and I would allow a couple of days, then send just a gentle follow-up email to say, hi, and I'll just show you an example here. Hi, I just wanted to follow up and see if you're interested in speaking with blah about the dangerous sort of medical ransomware. Thanks for your time. Any feedback is appreciated. So what we're doing here, and you would forward on the first email, so you'd forward that first email so all the detail and the subject line is still there, so there's some familiarity in their inbox. But you are also but you're gently following up. So again, and here we're opening the door to say any feedback is appreciated. So what we're saying here is, if you don't like the story, perhaps you can tell us what you don't like about it, or if it's really off target, then maybe we can do something else, or they may spend some time with you on that. It's unlikely that they will, but it's good to actually ask for that. So that's our media pitching.